I actually remember the concert before, I remember the shot, I remember the lights, I remember the crowd around me, and I remember our journey all the way to the hospital. I actually have a pretty clear memory of almost all of that. From that first shot where I felt like I was going to die. I actually had that feeling of like, this is it, I am going to die here. My name is Bignami, and my husband and I were at the Route 91 concert on October 1st, 2017. Third day of the festival, we had been there all weekend and very much looking forward to Jason Aldean, who was the headliner. I was there with my husband and his best friend. We were celebrating his best friend's birthday that night. And so we had spent the day just kind of drinking and eating and having fun and hanging out and watching the different acts that all show leading up to the headliner. We were actually about 30 yards back from the stage on the right-hand side, facing the stage. And he went on and we were singing along. We heard this sort of like pop, pop, pop sort of off to our right. And I remember thinking, you know, some idiots brought fireworks to the concert. Like, that's dumb, why would you do that? And then there was another little pop, pop, and then it was within that sound frame, so it was right away that I was hit in the face. So I fell to the ground, didn't realize at the time, obviously, what had happened. Just this intense ringing, like this intense ringing in my ears and this horrible, like, thumping noise in my head. I remember feeling like I was hit with something, but I didn't know what that was, because that's how my head felt. It just felt as if I had been hit with something. The shot actually went in through the cheek, the side, and came out right below my left jaw. And so it kind of completely shattered the right side of my jaw, and then the exit wound came out just very close to all sorts of important body parts that stayed intact. At that point, the concert's still happening, and I remember like reaching up. I couldn't stand, so I remember like tapping my husband's leg. And so he looked down at me, and you know, I looked up at him, and I say like, I don't know what I looked like, but I remember what his face looked like, so his reaction to seeing me. He stood staring at me for a second, and then his best friend like kind of hit him and said, "We gotta go." And we knew where the first aid tent was, and so that was in his mind of, okay, I'll get her to first aid, and they will help her. After that first shot and we started moving, we hid in like a central barricade area. The stage kind of came out, and so we hid in one of those areas, and then my husband kind of realized that cadence, so he was shooting, and then there'd be a break, and then he would shoot, and there'd be a break. So he kind of got in this thing of like, when the firing started, he would stop and he would find a place for us to hide. And then when there was a break, that's when we would move. So we hid in one area, I moved again, hid in a second area. He pulled like a table down on top of us. This is one of the memories I have of like, there were people like not moving. I felt like we were stuck for a moment. He like got us up, and we kind of climbed over a barricade to get away from all the people so we could keep moving. We got out to a back area where there was a little more of a clearing. There weren't a lot of people around, and I was hit again. So I was shot in the back, about a half an inch off my spine. And so it went in on the right side of my back and came out the right ribs. And that one lacerated my liver, it collapsed my right lung, and it fractured the two ribs as it exited. At that point, my husband jumped on top of me, which actually fractured my scapula as well. We had a good conversation about that later. So I had a broken scapula, and the doctors couldn't figure out how the bullet had caused a fractured scapula. So we learned later that my 6'1", 210-pound husband jumped on top to protect me. So at that point, I was on the ground and everything got very heavy. It's kind of the only way I could describe it. I had the collapsed lung, so it became immediately very hard to breathe. And with the pain in my head, my whole body just felt heavy. And it was one of those moments of like, it was the first and only time during this entire process where I felt like I was going to die. I actually had that feeling of like, this is it, I am going to die here. And then I didn't want to. I mean, it's a weird thing to say, you know, but I remember telling myself, like, no, I don't want to die. Like, I want to see my babies again. And that was sort of what was this voice in my head constantly that I want to see my babies again. And then I had this conversation of like, you know, okay, God, we don't talk much, but here we are. Like, and I need the strength and I want to get up and I want to see my babies again. And that became this like, over and over again, okay, I will see my babies again. And then my husband laid down next to me and he's just like, you know, we are not dying today. So you were getting up, and he kept saying over and over again, we are not dying today, we are not dying today. And so he grabbed my arm and he said, you know, can you get up? And I was able to squeeze his hand, and so he helped me get up and we kept walking. And right before we got to the first aid tent, I was actually hit again in the hand. And so we kept moving, you know, keep moving forward, and then we finally made it inside the first aid tent. And that was just chaos. As many people as they could made their way to the first aid tent, so it was full of people. And we were blessed to find this amazing medic who was able to, they actually patched up the injury to my back. So they were able to patch that up, which was great, which slowed the bleeding down, which I think probably is what really ended up saving my life overall, based on, you know, the loss of blood that would have happened with that. There wasn't a lot they could do for my face, so kind of gave me a bucket to bleed in, basically, so I wasn't everywhere. They had to remove my skirt and my shirt in order to get to the injuries. So we're there being treated, thinking that we're, you know, in a safe place, and someone came in and yelled, if you can walk, you have to go, they're getting closer. So at this point, no one knew what was happening, but the shots were getting closer. All this is happening while the gunfire is still happening outside. And I had to sit down. This was the point where I think I just really started to feel tired. Like I didn't feel like I could kind of keep walking. So I sat down, and I remember my husband like, nope, up, let's go, we're gonna find an ambulance. A car drove by, he was able to stop them. He asked, you know, my wife's been shot, can you please help us? In that moment, I remember thinking like, oh, I'll be fine. Like, you've gotten me to where I need to be. Like, get me to a cop, get me to a fireman, like, I will be safe, I will be great. There were two girls on a gurney in the ambulance, and they had to move one to do work on another because she started crashing while we were in the ambulance. The ambulance finally gets to the hospital, and my husband hands off the girl that was on his lap, and then he hands me off and they put me in a wheelchair. He stays to help get a couple more people out of the ambulance, and they wheel me through the door. And I remember going through the doors, they opened up, and the bright lights of the hospital, and that is the last memory I have until Friday.
Okay, we can't worry about victims. We need to stop the shooter before we have more victims. I'm inside the Mandalay Bay on the 31st floor. I can hear the automatic fire coming from one floor ahead, one floor above us. Breach. There's one down, 32nd floor, Mandalay Bay.
I was at Sunrise Hospital in Las Vegas, and I spent 19 days there. So they transferred me to the trauma floor, and I was on the trauma floor until I came back to California. And I finally came home on November 2nd. The injuries to my face were a little intense as far as what my recovery has been and my daily activities and my daily pain level. So it's one of those that the consistency of talking that you have to do as an educator is something that's just, I can't really do. There's still a lot of daily struggles. Eating is still a struggle. I'm on a primarily soft food diet because I can't really do a ton of chewing. I lost 2 teeth because of the jaw injury, but also the entire inside of my mouth on the right side is completely numb. So I don't have full control over my tongue. I lost about 40% of my tongue. I have to take medications more than I've ever done. You know, and then there's little things like brushing my teeth is a chore just because I can't open my mouth very wide. I can't handle the feeling of the bristles on my jaw. There's weird little things like that. Super sensitive to hot, super sensitive to cold. I get tired more easily, even now still, it's 5 years, but there's that. I have elevated lead levels, so I have to have my blood checked every 6 months to monitor the lead levels in my body. Yeah, I mean, we're moving forward. It's different than it was, 5 years ago. There is a constant level of pain within my face, and I have learned to live with that. So I have it's a numbness kind of tingly feeling. That pins and needles that you get when your foot is asleep and it just starts to come back, that is actually what my tongue feels like all the time. So I have intense nerve damage, and I also still have shrapnel within my face and my tongue and within my side. So that mixed with the nerve damage is what causes that sort of intense feeling in my tongue. So that's there as a baseline always. And then the more I speak, it goes up. When I eat, when I swallow, anytime any of the nerves are activated within my face, my pain level is elevated. And then in my side, I still have some shrapnel that is making its way out. So as that moves around, then that will cause levels of pain or uncomfortableness. And I see an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, I do massage therapy, and I also have my jaw surgeon, and then I have an orthodontist because I had to go through braces again. My 3rd time with braces. Plus my therapy appointments. I still see a therapist. I see a trauma specialist. Just you want to be able to not let it be something that's at the forefront of your thought every day. And for me, there's that challenge because I start my day every day with taking pills that are hard to swallow, brushing my teeth, which is difficult to do. But it's kind of hard sometimes, I think, as survivors to realize like there are a bunch of people who don't even know it happened or don't understand the caliber of what went on. And for this one especially, right, the largest mass shooting in modern day history, you would think would be part of a bigger level of education or something.
No more. Say it with me. No more. No more.
It's really difficult as a survivor and to realize that they're trying to enact all these other crazy laws, but like, what about the ones to help with this? I don't know how to even begin to get a solution, but at least working towards one would be great. And it doesn't feel like as a country we're even working in that direction anymore, or right now. The more shocking thing to me was when I started reading more about the incident with October 1 and the differences of like the bump stock, like the ability to modify a weapon so that it can mass fire on things. The only reason that exists is to fire on people. You don't hunt animals that way. You don't do that for sport. Like, that's 100% the only reason. My children have an active shooter drill at their school.
Outside of the building, 555.
A violent intruder drill is what they call it. So my 10-year-old, who's been through everything that she's been through in the last 5 years of her life, now has to sit through a violent intruder drill at school in the reality that this may actually happen to her in school. For many years, we were able to kind of, and I remember my son even asking in like the 3rd grade, Mom, what happened to you with the bad man? Could that happen anywhere? Well, you know, it kind of could, buddy. Like, and he specifically asked in school, and my response was, William, you are very safe in your school. And that was all I said. Like, I couldn't lie to him, but I couldn't tell my 8-year-old that, like, oh yeah, you might get shot at school. Mommy doesn't know. Like, it's happened before. So going to concerts is kind of our thing. It's what my husband and I have always loved to do. So we knew kind of immediately, and we never even really talked about it. It just was sort of an unspoken thing that we will go back to a concert is what we will want to do. So my husband decided that he really would like Jason Aldean to have been the first concert we go back to. In his mind, that was what he really wanted. So I absolutely, let's do it. So as luck would have it, the very next year, Jason Aldean was doing he called it his Finish the Set tour. And that was his sort of way to like, I want to honor those that were there, and let's finish this, we can all do this, let's do this together, let's get through the whole set. We met up with a few other survivors that night. One of my best friends was there, and you know, we just did it. We went in with no expectations, and we went in saying, if I don't feel right, we can leave, we can sit outside, we can do whatever, and it was good. It was difficult, and it was emotional, and it was fun. I was up in the stands for a little while, and then there was a point during the concert where like the lights kind of came up, and you sort of saw this sea of people, and it was the heads, and there was something about that image that sort of took me back to the October 1 concert. Some days are way better than others, let's be honest. We all have those days. I swear to you, I have those days where I'm like, nope, I'm not getting off the couch. I don't care what you guys eat for dinner. Like, but you know, in general, I've always been a positive person, so that helps. I spend every day trying to at least be happy about something, grateful for something. You challenge yourself, you face the hard things, and we're better because of it. For me, the biggest challenge was learning that just because I had a bad day, or I had a setback, or you know, I had a flashback, or I had an anxiety attack, it didn't mean that that was a step backwards. It just meant that that's where I was in the moment. And so I think with any type of recovery, you really have to recognize this ability to give yourself grace and to have the patience with yourself. I find that a lot of people have so much more patience with everyone around them, and we have a lot less patience with ourselves. This is a get-to life. You get to do these things. You don't have to do anything. So when it came down to it, that was our mentality with all of this. Like, we get to be here, we get to do this, we get to move forward. The ability to just be okay with where you are in that moment and know that that moment will pass and that you have an opportunity to then keep growing and moving forward. So it's important to, as you heal and recover, to find those things that are going to help give you what feels like your life back, you know. When I first was injured and people talked about, oh, there's this new normal. Don't worry, you'll get to a new normal. It's been 5 years out and there is no new normal because normal keeps changing. Like, normal is different. Normal is different almost every day around here. And so I think for me, it was kind of giving up this idea that there was going to be a new normal and just kind of accepting, like, well, where I'm at right now, that's normal. And that may change tomorrow, and that's okay if it does. Even now, 5 years out, there's still things every once in a while that will, you know, get into my brain or bring me back a flashback or a memory or something that I kind of have to take that extra moment and just sort of breathe and remind myself of where I am and that I'm safe.